Good morning, guys. I promise. I take showers. I just don't let my hair out. So, in case you're wondering, um, here we go. So, last time we saw Christopher, his dad and him had gotten into a fight because his dad found his book and then he threw it away into the trash can. So, we're going to pick up just from there. These are some of the reasons why I hate yellow and brown. Yellow, number one, custard. Number two, bananas. Bananas also turn brown. Number three, double yellow lines. Number four, yellow fever, which is a disease from tropical America and West Africa which causes a high fever, acute nephritis, jaundice, and hemorrhages, and it is caused by a virus transmitted by the bite of a mosquito. Number five, yellow flowers. Because I get hay fever from flower pollen, which is one of three sorts of hay fever, and the others are from grass and fungus, and that makes me feel ill. Number six, sweet corn. Because it comes out in your poo and you can't digest it, so you're not really meant to eat it, like grass or leaves. For brown, number one, dirt. Two, gravy. Three, poop. Four, wood. Because people used to make machines and vehicles out of wood, but they don't anymore because wood breaks and goes rotten and has worms in it sometimes. And now people make machines and vehicles out of metal and plastic, which are much better and more modern. Number five, Melissa Brown. Who's this girl at school who's not actually brown like Muhammad? It's just her name. But she tore my big astronaut painting into two pieces, and I threw it away even after Mrs. Peters taped it back together. Mrs. Forbes said that hating yellow and brown is just being silly. And Miss S says that it shouldn't say anything like that and everyone has favorite colors. Miss S was right. But Mrs. Forbes was a bit right too. Because it's sort of being silly. But in life, you have to take lots of decisions, and if you don't take decisions, you would never do anything because you would spend all your time choosing between things you could do. So it's good to have a reason why you hate some things and why you don't. It's like being in a restaurant when father takes me out to Bernie Inn sometimes. You look at the menu and you have to choose what you're going to have. But you don't know if you're going to like something because you haven't tasted it yet. So you have favorite foods and you choose these, and you have foods you don't like and you don't choose these, and that is simple. Chapter 137. The next day, father said he was sorry that he had hit me, and he didn't mean to. He made me wash the cut on my cheek with Dettol to make sure that it wasn't infected. Then he got me to put a plaster on it so that it wouldn't bleed. Then, because it was Saturday, he said he was going to take me on an expedition to show me that he was properly sorry and that we were going to the zoo. So he made us some sandwiches with white bread and tomatoes and lettuce and ham and strawberry jam for me to eat because I don't like eating food from places I don't know. And he said it would be okay because there wouldn't be too many people at the zoo because it was supposed to rain. And I was glad about this because I don't like crowds of people and I like it when it's raining. So I went and I got my waterproof, which is orange. Then we drove to the zoo. I've never been to the zoo before, so I didn't have a route worked out in my mind when we got there. So we bought a guidebook from the information center, and then we walked around my whole zoo. And then I decided these were my favorite animals. You got a new toy. My favorite animals were. Hold on. Bucky, that's not yours. Drop it. Okay. Favorite animals were number one, Randy Man, which is the name of the oldest red-faced black spider monkey ever kept in captivity. Randy's 44 years old, which is the same age as father. He used to be a pet on a ship and have metal bands around his stomach, like a story in Pirates. Number two, the Patagonian sea lions, which are called Miracle and Star. Number three, Maliku, which is an orangutan. I liked it especially because it was lying on a kind of a hammock made out of stripy green pajama bottoms, and on the blue plastic notice next to the cage it said it made the hammock itself. Then we went to the cafe, and father had chips and apple pie and ice cream and a pot of Earl Grey tea, and I had my sandwiches and I read the guidebook. And father said, I love you very much, Christopher. Don't ever forget that. And I know I lose my mind occasionally. I know that I get angry. I know that I shout. And I know that I shouldn't. But I only do it because I worry about you. Because I don't want to see you get into trouble. Because I don't want you to get hurt. Do you understand? I didn't know what father meant. I didn't know whether I understood, so I just said, I don't know. And father said, Christopher, do you understand that I love you? Yes, because loving someone is helping them when they get into trouble, and looking after them and telling them the truth. And father looks after me when I get in trouble, like coming to the police station, and he looks after me by cooking meals for me, and he always tells me the truth, which means that he loves me. And when he held up his right hand and spread his fingers out in a fan, I held up my left hand and spread my fingers out in a fan, and we made our fingers and thumbs touch each other. Then I got out a piece of paper from my bag and I did a map of the zoo from memory as a test. The map looked like this. Oops. Then we went and looked at the giraffes. And the smell of their poo was like the smell inside the gerbil cage at school when we had gerbils. And when they ran their legs, they were so long it looked like they were running in slow motion. Then Father said we had to get home before the roads got busy. When I went to school on Monday, Miss S asked why I had a bruise on the side of my face. I said that Father was angry and he had grabbed me, so I had hit him, and then we had a fight. Miss S asked whether Father had hit me, and I said I didn't know because I got very cross and it made my memory go strange. And then she asked if Father had hit me because he was angry, and I said he didn't hit me, he grabbed me, but he was angry. And Miss S asked if he grabbed me hard, and I said that he did grab me hard. And Miss asked if I was frightened to go home, and I said I wasn't. And then he asked, Bucky, drop it. Good boy. If I wanted to talk about it, and I said I didn't. And then she said, okay, and we didn't talk about it anymore. Because grabbing is okay if it's on your arm or your shoulder when you are angry, but you can't grab someone's hair or their face. But hitting is not allowed, except if you are allowed in a fight with someone, then it's not so bad. And when I got home from school, Father was still at work, so I went into the kitchen and took the key out of the little china jug shaped like a nun and opened the back door and went outside to look through the garbage bin. I wanted to see if my book was there and get it back because I liked writing in it. I liked having a project to do, and I liked it, especially if it were a difficult project like a book. And I still didn't know who had killed Wellington, and my book was where I'd kept all the clues that I'd discovered, and I didn't want them to be thrown away. But my book wasn't in the garbage bin. I put the lid back down and walked towards the garden to have a look in the bin where Father keeps the garden waste, such as lawn clippings and apples that have fallen off the tree. But my book wasn't in there either. Bucky, drop it. Drop it. Drop it. Look in the garden. Where Father? Okay. I wonder if Father had put it into his van and driven to the tip and put it into one of those big bins. But I didn't want that to be true because I would never see it again. The other possibility was that Father had hidden my book somewhere in the house, so I decided to do some detective work and see if I could find it. Except I had to keep listening really hard all the time so I would hear his van when he pulled up outside. I started by looking in the kitchen. My book was approximately 25 centimeters by 35 centimeters by 1 centimeter, so it couldn't be hidden in a very small place, which meant that I didn't have to look in any really small places. I looked on top of the cupboards and down the back of the drawers and under the oven, and I used my special light torch and a piece of mirror from the utility room to help me see in the dark places. Then I detected in the utility room, the dining room, and then in the living room, where I found the missing wheel from my Airfix BF109 G6 model under the sofa. Then I thought I heard Father coming through the front door, and I jumped and I tried to stand up fast, and I banged my knee on the corner of the coffee table, and it hurt a lot. But it was only one of the drug people next door dropping something on the floor. Then I went upstairs, but I didn't do any detecting in my room because I reasoned that Father wouldn't hide something from me in my own room, unless he was being very clever and doing what is called a double bluff, like in a real murder mystery novel. So I decided to look in my own room only if I couldn't find a book anywhere else. I detected in the bathroom, but the only place to look was in the cupboard, and there was nothing in there, which meant that the only room left to detect in was Father's. I didn't know whether I should look in there because he had told me not to mess with anything in his room. But if he was going to hide something from me, the best place to hide it would be in his room. So I told myself I would not mess with things in his room. I would move them, and then I would move them back, and he would move them so he wouldn't be angry. I started by looking under the bed. Gentlemen. Hey! Alright. Under the bed, there were 7 shoes and a comb with lots of hair in it, a piece of copper pipe, and a chocolate biscuit, and a porn magazine called Fiesta, and a deadbeat. Hey! Come on! All right, finish this off. Let's go. And a dead bee and a Homer Simpson pattern tie and a wooden spoon, but not my book under the bed. Then I looked in the drawers and on either side of the dressing table, but these only contained aspirin and nail clippers and batteries and dental floss and a tampon and tissues and a spare false tooth in case Father lost his false tooth that he had to fill the gap in when he knocked a tooth out when he fell off the ladder putting a bird box up in the garden. But my book wasn't in there anyways. Then I looked in his clothes drawer. This was full of clothes on hangers. This was also a little shelf on the top which I could see onto if I stood onto the bed. But I had to take my shoes off in case I left a dirty footprint that would be a clue if Father decided to do some of his own detecting. But the only things on the shelf were more porn magazines and a broken sandwich toaster and 12 wire coat hangers and an old hair dryer that used to belong to Mother. In the bottom of the cupboard was a large plastic toolbox which was full of toys for doing it yourself, like a drill, a paintbrush, and some screws and a hammer. But I could see these without opening the box because it was made of transparency gray plastic. Then I saw that there were another box underneath the toolbox, so I lifted the toolbox out of the cupboard. The other box was an old cupboard box that was called a shirt box because people used to buy shirts in them. And when I opened the shirt box, I saw that my book was inside it too. Then, hello! Don't get a second dog. Don't let them ever convince you to get a second dog. Then I saw that there was another box. Oh, he saw the box. Okay. Then I didn't know what to do. I was happy because Father hadn't thrown my book away. But if I took the book away, he would know that I'd been messing around in his room. And he would be very angry, and I'd promised not to mess with these things in his room. Then I heard his van pulling up outside the house, and I knew that I had to think fast and be clever. So I decided that I would leave the book where it was because I reasoned that Father wasn't going to throw it away if he had put it into the shirt box, and I could carry on writing in another book that I would really keep secret, and then maybe later he might change his mind and let me keep the first book again, and I would copy the new book into it. And then he gave it back to me. I would be able to remember most of what I had written, so I would put it all in the second secret book, and if there were bits I wanted to check just to make sure I'd remember them correctly, I would come into the room where he was out and check. Hello! Blah, blah, blah. Second book. Then I heard Father shutting the door of the van. And when I saw that, I saw the envelope. It was an envelope addressed to me, and it was lying under my book in the shirt box with some other envelopes. I picked it up. It had never been opened. It said, Christopher Boone, 36 Randolph Street, Swindon, Wiltshire. Then I noticed that there were a lot of other envelopes, and they were all addressed to me. And this was interesting and confusing. And then I noticed how the words Christopher and Swindon were written. They were written like this. All right, we're going to stop right there.